Today is April 23rd, and we're going to look at a couple of UFO pictures that I took here in North Texas. I think this first one, I actually showed this first on Cindy Luhu's live stream a week or two ago. But it's going to show us a couple of UFOs. So I just want to point out in the original photograph that I was taking a picture of now you can call these chemtrails or contrails, whatever you prefer. But basically, when I see jets flying at high altitude and leaving a persistent stream behind them, I find that very often I see UFOs kind of accompanying those aircraft. And these were two pictures, were no exception, and these two pictures were taken within just a few seconds of each other. So let's start off by looking at a zoom in of this first picture, like I always do. These two are the interesting objects. So let's take a quick look at those. We'll start off with this smaller one here. And if you look carefully at that, that's what we see right there. So as I look at this, what I'm seeing is a rectangle. But in this first rectangle right here, I see a series of 3 lights. Can you see that? So it's not just a solid white rectangle. In that rectangle, I can see 3 areas that are lighter than the rest. So you've got this corner's lit brighter, this corner's lit brighter, and then the center of the bottom is lit brighter. So what that means, I don't know, but that's what I see in this one. I'm going to zoom it to full zoom. That's as big as I can go. And it does pixelate quite a bit here, but you can see the 3 areas of light. Back it off just a little, about right there. And then if you look at this other one, it looks like 2 areas of light, doesn't it? So this one has 3, this one has 2, but then you can see a darkened area beside it, right? See that area right there? And you can see a darkened area on this side of it with some kind of pipework or cables connecting these 2 objects. So can you see that right there? You got one right there, and one right there. And then also there's some kind of mechanisms or something connecting these 2 rectangles, or actually a rectangle and a square more accurately. So that's the first object that I saw. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see it in relation to the jet and the other main object of this. Where is it? There it is. So there's the jet, there was the first object, and here's the second object. Now let's go ahead and zoom in on it. And this one's interesting because I've shown lots and lots of these over the past several months. I don't know why it is, but so many of these UFOs that I'm observing, it's not a single object, but it's a light and a dark object connected. And they're kind of mirror images of each other. And this is no exception. You can see this white object right here. And then you can see a mirror image of it here in dark color. And then as I really zoom in on this, you can notice some kind of, and I don't know if this is pipework or cabling or maybe just structures tying these 2 objects together. But you can certainly see something connecting these 2. And to me, it kind of is horseshoe shaped. See that right there, that gray band in front of the white. And then it kind of bends around and it ties into this darker area right there. So if we zoom way in, it starts pixelating, but just so you can see it. So then it has kind of a misty area here. And you can see a lot of pipework or something connecting these 2 objects. So I'm going to zoom back out so you can kind of get a better reference for it. So that was the first photograph. 2 interesting objects. Of course, the orb up there too, but these are the main ones that I find is interesting. Now, what are they? I have no idea. Just looking at them in the size comparison to the jet, though, they're fairly large. I would say if I was looking at the length of this jet right here, and then looking at the size of these objects, I'd say they have to be in the, 10 to 20 feet range. Now, granted, they may be totally different distances away from my camera, but if they were at the same basic distance away, that's what I would say they are in relation to that jet. So that was the first picture. Now let's go ahead and pull up this second one. And I think the second one of the 2 is actually the most interesting to me. So here's our second picture. And again, as you look at this, there's one brighter object than the rest. So even though there's other little orbs that I captured in this picture, We're going to focus on this one right here because it's the brightest. But before we do, one of the things that really fascinates me about searching for UFOs is all these sky watchers that capture triangular UFOs. And I never seem to capture them myself, even though I want to. You don't see it in this picture right here, but as you zoom in, I will show you exactly where it is. Here's the jet. Here's our main object that we'll focus at that's really kind of interesting too. Really interesting to me. But there's a triangular UFO up here, and you can't see it yet, but you will as I zoom in. So as I zoom in, we're just going to kind of watch up here, and you'll see it come into view. I already know where it is, but you can't quite make it out yet. So look right up here. And as we zoom further in, it starts coming into view. So there's, and I say triangular UFO, all we can definitively say about it is we see a series of 3 lights. 2 are dim and 1 is bright, and they're in a triangular formation. Now, because this picture was taken, it was still light outside, so it's not in the dark. Lots of people photograph these, and that's what you see is a series of 3 lights, and usually one of them is brighter than the other 2. And that's exactly what we have here. In the spirit of full disclosure, all I can see about this is I can see those 3 lights. And I can't see anything connecting them. And my brain tells me there is, but I think it's mainly because I want that to be the case. So all I can call that is a series of 3 lights, very similar to so many of the other triangular light formations that we see. But still pretty interesting to find that, and I was excited to see it. So I wanted to go ahead and share it with the YouTube community. And of course, if you have thoughts on that, feel free to share them, positive or negative, as long as you keep it clean, no profanity. So there's back to the focus of the video. There's our triangular lights. Now let's move on to this other one. And it's right here, and I think you're going to be really fascinated when you see what this is. So as you look at it there, I bet no one can tell what that is yet, but as I zoom in, it will become more and more clear. Can you see what that is yet? So as I kind of zoom in, do you see the kind of the shape becoming clear? I think by now almost everybody should be able to see it. If you're on a phone, it's a lot harder, but hopefully you've learned by now to view my videos. You really should be on a laptop or a TV screen. I've got some subscribers that say, "Hey Matt, we like going to a TV screen so you can see really big images, and we're seeing more than you are." And I think that's awesome. And I'm sure there's things that I miss all the time in these videos. So if you see something, let me know. But I can't help but say, look at that fascinating object right there. What does that look like to you? Keep in mind, I'm shooting this with a 300 millimeter lens on my Sony mirrorless camera. There is 0 chance that that can be a satellite in our upper atmosphere. There's no way it would come in this large. So what it is, I don't know. That's why I'm calling this a UFO, and it's definitely an X pattern, isn't it? So I'm going to zoom way in so we can just have fun looking at this together. So this is a clear-cut X-shaped UFO. And what I see there is I see the X pattern, but I also see a raised object. It's not really a ball. It's more like a tube projecting out the center of this clear-cut X-patterned object, UFO. So what do y'all think about that? Isn't that interesting? Now, I just want to point out, if you look at some of my moon videos, a lot of those are documenting these exact same patterns on the surface of the moon. And I've always thought that those might be some kind of a drilling mechanism, but after I captured this, now I'm kind of rethinking those videos of the moon, and I just want to propose to y'all, and I'll have a link to some of the moon videos that show X's at the end of this so you can take a look for yourself. But what if those X's that we're documenting on the moon are really spacecraft? Wouldn't that be interesting? Because I see them all the time. So what if, and I've seen people show the exact same X patterns on the planet Mars with photographs from Mars. So how interesting would it be if this ties all that together so that all those X patterns we're seeing on the moon and on the planet Mars are actually spacecraft. And this is the evidence of it, is here's one flying. I mean, back to the original picture, there's the jet. This is flying overhead over North Texas, and there is no one on Earth that could dispute that is an X-shaped craft of some type. So, just to kind of wrap this up, wouldn't it be fascinating if the truth is that we actually have documented all these X-shaped spacecraft on both our moon and the Mars photographs that so many people are finding? So for UFOs Above Us, this is Matt, and I want to remind everybody, hey, keep watching the skies, because the answers I think we're all searching for are really up there. The key is, are you willing to accept the truth?